That's pretty funny you signed Banks, because I actually just catfished the shit out of her and hit her up pretending to be Brian Eno, saying, hey, I've got this song. Naturally, being with somebody who's a master at what they do, you pick up a lot of things. But there was one thing in particular that really stuck with me that I think about quite a bit to this day, and is bigger than just music or art. It can apply to all of life in general. And I'll start with a backstory on how I ended up meeting Rick and got in a place where we were working together. Basically, I just started doing this thing. I decided in my mind that anytime I got in an elevator, I was going to talk to whoever was in there, even if they were reserved or seemed like an asshole or whatever it was. I was just going to say hello, figuring if the universe put us in the same place, same proximity, in a contained space, at the same time, maybe there was something to share or experience with that person in the moment. So I was on this elevator at Atlantic Records, went up there to write. This is back when I lived in Los Angeles. I'm in Nashville area now. And I was on this elevator and there was this dude, and I just started talking to him, and he ended up saying, oh, I'm a publisher. I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, who do you publish? Anybody I might know? And he's like, oh, I just actually started publishing Banks. For many of you, you probably know Banks. She was a singer, still is a singer, that did a lot of like R&B and indie type stuff that was pretty big 5 or 10 years ago. Man, time goes so quick. This shit's trippy. But anyway, we started talking. I was saying to him, that's pretty funny you signed Banks, because I actually just catfished the shit out of her and hit her up pretending to be Brian Eno, saying, hey, I've got this song. I hit him up as me first and said, hey, I've worked with, this person and this person to establish some credibility. I'd love to send Banks some music. And her management basically said she doesn't work with outside producers. So I go, oh, really? So I hit him up about a week later, pretending to be Brian Eno, sent the same music, and of course they loved it. She recorded this song me and a friend had written and I had produced. They submitted it, I came to find out, for 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack, and it was between the Weekend tune that ended up being it and this Banks song produced by Brian Eno that were in the running. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. To be real, between me and you, I know that Brian Eno tune. And he's like, oh, how do you know that? I'm like, because I am Brian Eno. I catfished her, tried the, honest way about a week before. They didn't want to hear it. Anyway, he ended up getting a kick out of it. He had no issue with it. He understood. My publisher at the time, on the other hand, didn't understand, and the head of the company, this dude, hit me up and was like, what are you out here doing? Catfishing people, this is crazy. And I was kind of like, if y'all actually did some shit, I wouldn't have to do this, would I? I don't do this to be cute. I do this because you're useless and I'm trying to get my music to people. So anyway, about a week later, the guy from the elevator emails me and he says, hey, I have a friend who works at Epic. He's an A&R. He's got a girl that he's working with, and he needs production, and he wants to do like alternative pop that's kind of futuristic and, kind of breaking some boundaries. Do you have any interest in it? Came back and said, you know what? Actually, in this moment, I'm fully pivoting to the artist thing. I've done the pitching and producing for other people for a long time, and it's starting to feel like a desk job, and I just want to make my own music. And he was like, that's cool. I get it 100%. But side note, he does work with Rick Rubin. And I hit him back right away and I was like, send him the fuck over. So the guy comes over and I'm playing stuff for the girl he's working with and might sign or whatever. And then I pretty much pulled the let me play you my own stuff, my artist stuff, so you can see how the writing and producing marries together. And I framed it that way because A&Rs a lot of time, if you're a producer and you go to playing music, they're like, oh God, because most people are producers for a reason. They're better at producing. It's not always the case, but A&Rs generally want to work with an artist that's an artist, not a producer that's aspiring to be an artist. But I played him the stuff. He flipped out. We played, the first song I played him, we played 10 times in a row. And he pretty much said, look, I'm not leaving this house until you say there's some way we can work together. And I've been waiting a long time to hear that from somebody. I had managed myself just because I wanted somebody who also believed in my artist music and didn't want to just rep me as a producer. And I didn't want them to just believe in it. I wanted them to love it and be, a fan of it genuinely and want to see it do big things and believe fully it could do big things. And he was the first one I met that had that passion and fire. So I said, let's do it. So he goes to leave and he pops his head back in the door and he goes, hey, is it cool if I send this to Rick Rubin? And I said, yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. Mind you, Rick had been like my hero in music because he was the one guy that got every genre and just understood that it's about like heart and energy and passion and reactiveness, and the genre is just the clothing it's in, but it's not the heart or soul of the music. But he's a very elusive guy and tough to get to. It's not like trying to find some A&R's email to send some beats to. I've been trying for years to find a way, and it just kind of, by the grace of God, fell into my lap. So a day later, he calls me and he says, hey man, what's up? And I kind of got the feeling, oh shit, there's no way it was this quick that they sent the music. But sure enough, he goes, hey, sent the music to Rick. He hit us back right away. He loves it. Can you go over to his house tomorrow? And back in the day when I would get really excited about things, I'd start to dry heave. Like I'd just be so excited. I go, oh, yeah, I can go over there tomorrow. So I'm driving up there, which was pretty surreal because this is a dude who was like my hero in music and I've been watching and studying and a fan of for 20 years or whatever. And I get up to Rick's house. He opens the door and it's just Rick. He's the same dude from the videos and everything. He's just like, what's up, man? Come on in. Just super chill. Any excited nerves I had just kind of went right out the window. And for a minute, I was like, damn, am I going to be nervous to meet him? Because I remember watching an interview with Eminem where he said the only person he ever got nervous to meet was Rick. So I was like, shit, if Eminem got nervous, phew. But there was none of that because he was so cool. It was just like talking to an old friend. And he slowly started to loosely kind of mentor me over time. I would go over to his house and play stuff, and he would just, kind of put me on game. And I ended up writing this song when I went home for Christmas one time called Doing Me. And I wrote it in about 20 minutes on a flight back to LA after Christmas. Got right to the studio when I got back, and I was working in this little office space in Universal Publishing. And I would always blare my music in this office because it was right where you walked in. So if any artist or writer or producer was there to have a meeting, they would pass my room and I would just crank it all day. They'd have to come once or twice a day and be like, hey, do you mind turning down the music? Because I was trying to have a meeting and the pictures on my wall are literally shaking. And I'm like, oh, well, my apologies for having such nasty fucking bass. Anyway, from working there, I get knocks on the door all the time because I played it so loud, and it would end up being somebody I recognize on the other side of the door, either a writer or artist or producer that would, knock and say, hey man, it just heard some crazy shit from here. Who are you? Da-da-da-da-da. So this is where I recorded Doing Me, and there was no sound panel, no sound, no soundproofing whatsoever. It was just a like 8x8 room and tons of natural reverb in it. If you recorded any kind of vocal thing, it would bleed right in. And there was about a $300 microphone and a little shitty interface that was super dated and probably one of the worst things sonically you could record through. And I ended up recording Doing Me through it. I didn't know where the words were going to fall. I just had this piece of music and I hadn't written the song to music. So I just recorded a demo. The words fell where they did intuitively. And that actually ended up turning into the final vocal, the first recording ever taken. And skip forward again. The song basically, we sent it over to Rick and he hits us back and says, "Oh, this is incredible. I love this. I played it for my girl. It made her tear up. I teared up. It made me laugh. You know, this is really special." So I was over a couple of days later and I knew he loved it. And the couple previous days I had gone in and tried to work on the song with different producers and they were trying to put all these drums and epic shit in it. And I knew, I was like, man, this isn't right. This needs to be raw and just all feeling and really centered on the vocal and the narrative, because that's the power here. But people weren't getting that. Producers naturally just love to throw shit in because it always feels better the first time you hear it with other things in, even if it's not what's actually right for the song. So I was sitting with Rick and I said, "Hey, I know you love this tune. I love it. Would you produce it?" And it was one of those ask and ye shall receive moments, because Rick goes, "Yeah, I love this song. I'd love to do it. Let's do it." And so I'm back up there and I get there before Rick when we started working, because I was going to test all these microphones to see what to re-record it through. Because again, I had recorded it in the shittiest environment and recording chain on the planet. So we had about 30 of the nicest microphones on the planet. Each probably costed 20 or 30 grand, some crazy shit. And I'm recording, find one that sounds really good with my voice, do a ton of passes, 50 or 100 takes, trying to recapture this magic. And it just never felt quite the same. So Rick comes in and he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just trying to cut all these vocals, but we've done a shitload of passes and I don't know." And he kind of turned his head and he was like, "Why are we recutting the vocal?" And I'm like, "Well, I did it in this really shitty room, shitty mic. I thought maybe if I did it on a nicer microphone, it would capture more of that clarity and presence and maybe it would be even more powerful." And he's like, "Yeah, but nobody gives a shit what you recorded it on. And the way it is right now is where the feeling is. We're not throw all these passes away, put all the microphones away. This is it. This is the vocal. It's incredible. It created the whole feeling that people are reacting to when they hear this, that makes you feel something, the listener feels something. You don't screw that up." And it was one of those moments that kind of smacked me like a brick in the face, because it's something I knew theoretically, but there's still this mental matrix in your mind going, "Oh, this microphone was a piece of shit and it may sound more professional and like a real record if we have the real mic and this," and you have all these, illusions in your mind. And in that moment, it really hit me that none of that matters. Nobody cares what you recorded it on. You could have recorded it through a can attached to a goddamn string. And if people feel something when they hear it, that's really all that matters. And I had a similar situation working with a guy named Dave Cobb, who's a really well-known and successful producer in Nashville who did a bunch of Chris Stapleton and Sturgill Simpson and all these people. He did my last album, produced it with me, and one of the songs I recorded in the Airbnb on a $80 USB microphone. You can hear the hum of the refrigerator bleeding into the mic. So I got in there one day and I said, man, should we knock out this vocal? And he's like, didn't you cut it? And I said, yeah, but it was in the Airbnb and you can hear the damn fan of the refrigerator buzzing in it. And he came back and said, all right, well, play it. So I played it and he looked at me and goes, you're crazy. This is the vocal. It couldn't be better. And again, it was that same lesson in my face of it's all about the feeling. Whatever art it is you're creating, not just art, life. It's emotion and feeling that moves people. That's the true currency on the planet. It's not the dollar or crypto or snatch or time. It is feeling and emotion that moves the world, moves people. So it's something to keep in mind at all times. Like, what is the feeling here? What feeling am I trying to create in this conversation with this person? If you focus on the feeling and take all the noise and bullshit out of the equation, that's where the true power lies. That's where your focus should be. And that's the thing, no matter what capacity of life it is, that you don't want to let anything get in the way of. It is the feeling. The feeling.